Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Haps Thoughts. Now, these are videos that I like to do whenever something is on my mind and I just want to create a place of discussion. As such, I expect all of you to share your opinions in the comment section below, and I half-heartedly expect some of you to respect the opinions of those around you. I know it won't happen, but I can at least ask for you to play nice down there. For this episode of Haps Thoughts, I want to cover a topic that I've been asked about so many times you'd think I'd be sick of even talking about it in the first place, and that is the idea of the content cycle in Final Fantasy XIV. Is it stagnant? Do I want us to just keep getting the same content over and over again? Do I want them to completely reinvent the wheel? I just want to share my thoughts on this topic, and this is mostly being spurred because Reddit is having this discussion again as we speak. An article was posted by Massively Overpowered showing the perspective of a specific author. Now, I am not going to be presenting that article. I don't particularly agree with, I guess, necessarily the tone of the article, but I do want to cover the topic at hand since it is a hot topic right now, and it, let's be honest, is always a hot topic in the 14 community. So in case you're newer to Final Fantasy XIV and this sort of emotion hasn't set in yet, the big topic is that Final Fantasy XIV has been around for over 5 years at this point, just including A Realm Reborn. We're not really going to go to 1.0 because it really doesn't play into this conversation at all. And in all that time, we've found that the game's pretty predictable. If you asked me, when do you think the patch is going to be? I can almost always educate an answer. January 8th is when I'm predicting the next patch is going to be because of when the next live letter is versus the holiday seasons that they probably won't release it on, and the usual cycle being 10 days after the actual live letter being when the patch releases, but that only changing if they have to do a live letter because of a holiday or some other event like they had to do for 4.4 as well. I can almost always wager guesses on anything that isn't directly related to story elements, and as such, it's become really predictable. And that's not necessarily a problem, but the big question is it too predictable? Is it stagnant? Has it not grown at all? Has it not advanced at all? And that's what we're going to be talking about primarily in this video. So I guess I have to break this down piece by piece because I expect to rant a lot in this video. So let me first tackle the topic overall. Do I think that the game is stale? Do I think that the game is stagnant because it's been on this content cycle for all these years? Obviously, I'm still playing it after all of these years, so I don't think that it's necessarily too stale or too stagnant, but I do see the outlook of people where they say, I'm tired of grinding dungeons, I'm tired of grinding tomestones, I'm tired of just getting 4 bosses with the Saboteurs, I'm tired of the 4 24-man bosses, I don't even need the loot from the 24-man bosses, I don't like Eureka, I don't like PvP, I don't like this, and it's all a lot of different voices filtering into my head, and then I have to process the things I do like, the things I don't like, and how I kind of stand with the way that content's being developed. I'm of the opinion that I'd rather have a guaranteed consistent schedule with the occasional sprinkling of a new idea or some sort of innovation along the way. And I think that's what Final Fantasy XIV has been aiming for the past several years. Ever since Heavensward, we were told, we're going to cut back on these things so that we can work on these newer ideas. And whether or not they turn out well, it's a 50-50 crapshoot so far, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But I prefer that approach, knowing I'm going to get this consistent content. I'm going to get the next part of the story. I can always look forward to that. I'm going to get this next primal and develop the story and whatever that primal or trial is going to be a part of. I know I'm going to get this 24-man, and in this case, that's expanding upon Ivalice inside of Final Fantasy XIV, our own interpretation of it, the Crystal Tower going back to Realm Reborn. All of these things that make this world feel more alive, I'm going to consistently get, and I never want to see that change personally. Now, I did say that with that consistency, my personal preference is for them to sprinkle about new ideas here and there. And also, like I said, it's about 50-50 what's been successful since 3.0 began. Obviously, looking back to that, most of us would look at 3.1 for Diadem and Lords of Verminion as pretty much massive failures. Now, there were people who can make great use of those contents, whether it's still using Lords of Verminion for their challenge log to work towards their mounts in the Gold Saucer, which means that even the worst of content has its value and its uses in the game. And then Diadem, where a lot of people buried it under all their combat stuff and maybe started using it for crafting and gathering with the materials that were actually available in there. We do have the occasional people who revisit Diadem with special events in order to collect the rewards or achievement hunting. So the values there, it's just super niche, which is not Also, not a bad thing in Final Fantasy XIV, but I think we would regularly regard those pieces of content as not great. But then I look at some of the other things that they added in 3.x and that they've continued to evolve upon in things like the Aquapolis, the treasure dungeon. I love the treasure dungeons. I love the Aquapolis, and I love the way it's evolved almost into this like RNG casino that you can do with friends. With world visiting coming up soon, that is a feature I look forward to playing with more people now that I can actually play with people across the same data center that I'm on, even if some of those people are going to get lost to Crystal. Sorry. Another feature I would look at as largely successful would be Palace of the Dead. I definitely think they didn't innovate enough with the second iteration with Heaven on High for the second deep dungeon, but I do like the concept overall. I just find that it is underutilized. And I feel that even with the features that I do like that they've implemented since cutting back on certain things like dungeons, that I really think that's the number one thing I'm not getting here, is that when they cut back on this other content to, try and break up the monotony of their stale patch cycle, there may be things I love, but I would be hard pressed to say I don't want new things. They don't always come out feeling complete. And I think that's really where a lot of this sort of emotion comes from, where people want something that breaks it up, because a lot of people don't like Eureka. Not everyone does treasure maps or can't find people to do them with. Not a lot of people like Diadem. Not a lot of people like Lords of Verminion. You also have to consider kind of PvP thrown into this mix, where I haven't been a fan of the changes going into PvP kind of ever since Seal Rock, or ever since Shatter came out. Seal Rock was really the last bit of PvP I really enjoyed, and the early days of the Feast. But it's slowly developed into a way I just can't support, and so it's kind of falling out of that interest range and falling into things that I would consider like Diadem and Eureka and whatnot. And all of these ideas that they've added, or new systems like the duty recorder or the quality of life changes, they've always come with some little caveat, something that is just a huge problem that they need to tackle sooner or later. And I'd say the only one I don't feel that way is treasure dungeons, with the only problem being that you have to do it with people on your server, so sometimes it's a little bit limited who you can actually find to do it at any given time. Maybe the reward structure could use a little bit of some work in there as well, but I think that's the number one thing I want them to work on going into 5.x. They've gotten feedback from stuff like Eureka. They've gotten feedback from stuff like Ultimate, another feature that I've personally loved and was super disappointed we weren't getting a new one in 4.5. And I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. I want them to really take some of this feedback to heart and use it to shape the newer content that they're working on into something that is more up our alley, something that's more the speed of the average user on the game. Because even if we don't enjoy something, we can absolutely utilize it to further our character, make it stronger, grind tomestones, earn gil, whatever it is we're trying to do. It could just be better. And that's the main thing I want to see going to 5.x. As long as all the consistent content that I've got into the game with is always there, then I'll at least always have a reason to check out the latest raid, check out the latest 24-man, do the new story quests, work on the new primal, maybe farm a mount from the new primal. But if that new content isn't there to hold me in between the patches, then I regularly will find myself just playing something else. And that's a big topic that we need to get into in this video as well. There's a lot of things we got to cover in this rant. Another thing I'd really like to see more of is stuff like Rathalos. I think that was the main reason. While the Rathalos encounter wasn't, particularly interesting, the concept of this more difficult 4-man content was. I'd say it's been a topic that we've discussed here a lot, and I could probably do a video about it all on its own outside of this. But I'm really hoping for the 15 collab to get something similar to Rathalos, because it's not like any of the other content in the game. It doesn't have a fantastic reward structure, but the fact that we can have that kind of content in the game is something that's so different from what we have that I kind of just want it. I want to see it. I want to see it evolve. I want to see them learn from it and build on it. And doesn't seem to be that much of an interest in it based on interviews they've done about that event, but I would sure like to see it. And we also have to consider we're very likely going to be hearing about Blitzball this Friday. They said there's a brand new content being added to the Gold Saucer. They've been talking about Blitzball expansion. I'll be shocked if it's anything but that. No snowboarding game, no Monster Arena. I fully expect it to be Blitzball. Blue Mage, we still have to see how that turns out. It's already a major point of controversy I've done a video about. But they are just adding these new ideas, and I hope they turn out well. I hope they don't turn out half-baked. I may go into them a little pessimistic, but if they can keep ideas like this flowing on top of the normal content, then I'm going to enjoy it. The Logos actions in Eureka are also a thing that I wish had been there from the beginning, because I probably would have a much different opinion about the earlier forms of Eureka if they also had Logos actions. It just made Pyro so much better for me across the board. So now we've covered how I feel about the actual content cycle. Do I find it stale? No, but at the same time, yes, I'm a bit mixed in that bag. So now that we've kind of beaten that topic into the ground, covered some of the other types of content that they've done that isn't necessarily part of the norm, I now want to talk about the other side of things. The people who don't agree with me, that they're not okay with the stale, they really want things uprooted. And I don't really want to talk about those people in particular because everyone's welcome to their own opinion. I suspect a lot of us aren't going to agree with each other in this video. And that's kind of the point. Because when we don't agree with each other, there's a lot of really weird ways that we kind of approach this topic. And I see them all over the place. Topics and discussions about what is a proper response to someone who doesn't share your opinion. And in Final Fantasy XIV, when someone criticizes the game a lot, the most common response is to tell that person, you should go play something else. Now, I want to immediately rule out times where that one person and literally every word out of their mouth is just them hating something. And maybe you kind of respect that they have an opinion about it, but at the same time, you're just like so done hearing it from them. Everyone's had that friend, family member, person that they just put up with because they're a coworker, a friend of a friend, whatever. You're just sick of hearing about the same thing over and over again. So what do? You tell them, go do something else. Just so they don't talk about it. I get that frustration, but so often it's also the first thing anyone says to anyone when they have any sort of criticism. I'm here to say that's not really an adequate response to somebody having a criticism about Final Fantasy XIV. First of all, I find that anyone that has a criticism about something regularly present some sort of emotion towards it in the first place. It means they generally don't want it to be bad necessarily. They would prefer for it to be good, but these are the things they need to change for it to be good for them. And it's just a means of presenting an opinion. And some people can be really aggressive, really douchey, really trolly about the way they present it. And those are generally people who just don't want to get involved with in the first place. But when someone just says, I think this Blue Mage thing, like, so let's say someone says, oh, this Blue Mage thing I think it's such a terrible idea. Why would you give us something that is completely locked away after you're done with level 50? You're done with the carnival, then what? What are you going to do? Find unsynced parties for Blue Mage to try and do coil? It's so limited. Everyone's going to be done with it in 2 weeks, and then you'll all be like, oh man, this sucks. And tell you, see it coming. When somebody sees that entire thing, and we've all seen that a million times in the last month or so, and their response is, dude, it just sounds like you should unsub to the game. That's not really, you gotta accept that people cannot like things in Final Fantasy XIV. People say I'm a fanboy, but I regularly, and I am, well, self-admitted, but I still criticize things I don't like. I criticize the PvP, I criticize ideas, I'm pessimistic about new ideas because I've set such a low bar of expectation because it just has always come out half-baked every single time a brand new piece of content, other than maybe the Aquapolis has come out. And so, you just need to, sorry, I hit my microphone. I'm very animated, even though you can't see me. We just need to kind of accept that people share this opinion. I would highly recommend not using that as a comeback for somebody unless they have taken you to the breaking point, at which point, don't even bother saying it back. Just walk away from the conversation if you're tired of hearing somebody complain about something you love so much all the time. Even if you agree with them from time to time, just some people are so annoying, man. What are you going to do? I'm annoying to some people. You can tell me to unsub. Here, just tell me to do it. That way you don't got to tell your friends or people that you normally get along with because you're tired of hearing them talk about Eureka for the 50th time. Okay, so now at this point, I've covered criticisms people have of each other, of opinions. That doesn't even have to be related to Final Fantasy XIV if I didn't want it to be. I've covered my opinions on the actual content cycle. Does it need to change? Should they shake things up a little bit? And I feel like those are the two most important points that I wanted to cover. I honestly could talk about this for hours, and I'm sure that surprises absolutely nobody, but as someone who's a content creator who creates things that people like to consume, I guess I see this from a different perspective in a little bit, where people criticize my work, and for me, it's not always easy as the creator to see some of those criticisms, but I need to respect people's opinions enough to be like, yeah, this person thinks this. I just need to accept that, absorb it, and move on with my day. But I just see so much hatred and so much negativity around topics like this, even if the general consensus when something comes out is that it's not that bad. They did a pretty decent job with it. It's not the greatest thing, but I just want us to kind of accept where we are with Final Fantasy XIV, where we are with each other in terms of a community. Because the better we do that, the better we're prepared to deal with things as they happen in Final Fantasy XIV going forward. And I will say this, as someone who plays a lot of 14, I said not to say it, but one of the biggest things that I make sure I'm always willing to do is have time to, freshen my palate up a little bit, It's like eating ginger between pieces of sushi. You need to I just feel like I need to reset the palate occasionally, and that's really one of the main things that's kept me interested. I don't want to unsub, I don't want to quit, I don't want to go play something else necessarily. But doing those, just playing another game in between Final Fantasy 14 sessions means that when I log in, I generally have some sort of motivation, some sort of goal that I haven't reached, something that I really want to absorb myself in. I really want to become absorbed with, whether it be collecting materia to get ready for the next expansion, or trying to do those treasure maps with a few friends, or maybe helping somebody with a savage fight that they're working on, like 9 or 10 or whatever. Maybe I actually want to go farm a doggo for a little bit, do a couple of Suzaku runs. My outlook is always fresher when I'm not playing every day for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. And it's just how it works out for me. So I won't tell you to go play something else, but I'll tell you that if you're finding Final Fantasy XIV content stale, if you're finding like you really want to see things shaken up, feel free to express that opinion. Don't let anyone tell you your opinion is wrong or you should go play something else. But also keep in mind that maybe stepping away for a second and then coming back to it can give you a fresher outlook as well. I guess the toughest thing is I'm really on everyone's side with this discussion because I don't think anyone's wrong. I think it's just a matter of opinion. And I hope that as a community, we can kind of just charge past that and look forward to 4.5 and Shadowbringers. Maybe we'll get something that really shakes up the mold. Maybe we'll get more stuff that's like Eureka, and we're like, but why, Yoshida? But why? But we'll be doing it together because we'll always have that consistent base, that content that's always there. We can always bond between the stories, our experiences with the 4-man raids, and hopefully more stuff going forward. Really hoping for 3 ultimates, personally, going in to 5.x. Really, really hoping for that because that was a big new thing that they added that I definitely am a big fan of. All right, and with that, Haps thoughts, or Haps rant at this point, over. Just wanted to get that video out there because it's just such a huge topic. And be sure to discuss it with each other in the comment section. But just, if you don't agree with someone, just be like, okay, I don't agree. That's it. It's over. We don't need to make each other agree. We don't need to see eye to eye. We just need to accept it. Please. I just want some peace. I get emails for every YouTube comment, and I read them all. I just want some peace. Okay, but anyway, I'm just gonna throw some footage over this, get this posted on YouTube, and we'll see how it goes. So thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And if you've got a topic that you think would be good for Haps Thoughts, put that in the comment section below as well. Definitely looking for more consistent content for stuff like this, whether it be about Final Fantasy XIV, about Final Fantasy XI, about anything. I've got a couple of Haps Thoughts videos already planned out. Final Fantasy XI private versus retail servers is one that I definitely want to record in the near future. And just stuff about gaming in general. Whenever I have a thought about an RPG or anything at all, I want to feel the freedom to post it here. Those videos probably won't be as long. Anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.